Let's talk about the new Secret Garden palette that is launching from Bella Beaute Bar. So excited to see another palette from them. There's also some other products launching. So let's get right into it. First, of course, starting off with the palette. It is one of the bigger ones. It is magnetic and it does have the round pans. It seems like that is something that they've permanently switched to, is doing the round pans, because that way you can switch them out with all their other eyeshadows or whatever round pan 26mm eyeshadows you have to create your own perfect palettes and color stories. And the inside is a very springy and summery for sure. We've got some pinks, some greens, and also a neutral row at the top. I absolutely love seeing pinks and greens together. So I was very excited to see the color story because I knew this definitely something I would enjoy. And I will send all the products that I'm about to talk about from Bella Beaute Bar. So thank you so much for sending it over to me. And I do have an affiliate code with them as well. I'll put it up on the screen in case you're interested on anything in this collection or anything else on their website. And thank you so much if you do use my code. Now let's talk about the lip oil. So they are launching 7 new lip oils. They sent me the shade Black Veil. Beautiful, really clear, slightly kind of black lip oil with tons and tons of beautiful glitters in it. Doesn't feel gritty at all. It feels extremely comfortable. I put this on and within an hour I was like, yep, I need to buy some of the other shades because this is so stunning on the lips. I love it. Very moisturizing. I believe each of the different shades has a different smell, which I love that even more. And I love when they're fruity scents too, because I feel like there's a lot of vanilla floating around or baked goods kind of smell, so it's nice to switch it up. Then they're also launching empty magnetic palettes. I'm so excited. This is the size of it, and I already put all of my single eyeshadows that I have from Bella Beaute Bar in here, so you can fit 25 26mm round pans in this empty palette. They're also launching some beautiful brushes that I will put up on the screen over here somewhere. I'm not sure what the prices are quite yet. I'll put that information down in the description box as soon as I have it. And this is all launching April 22nd at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So back to the palette. This is what the video is going to be all about. I'm going to be showing you in-depth swatches of each of the shades, describing what it looks like, what it feels like, and then we'll go right into the 3 looks that I created with this palette, and I'll give you some of my thoughts at the end of the video. So let's get right into it. First up is the shade Gazebo. This is a beautiful neutral shade with hollow sparkles in it. This one doesn't have a shift, but because of the hollow particles, it's very dimensional and it is very smooth, no flakiness, no texture whatsoever. Sun Shower is such an interesting shade. It looks very pale pink in the pan, like a cool tone pale pink. Once swatched, it definitely has a silvery look to it, and in the shift is where it's really pink, and this one is very squishy in the pan. Serenity is such a beautiful, cooler tone pinky peach shade that shifts to yellow, gold, and lime green at a very harsh angle. It is super shifty because of that. And this one is also very squishy, just like the previous shade. Flora is a really beautiful, bright magenta, shifting orange and yellow, a little bit of green, maybe like a lime green. And this one is definitely pretty opaque. Doesn't have too much base to it, so I do think you could maybe shear it out just a little bit. Flora is very squishy and emollient in the pan. And then moving on to Butterfly, this is one of my favorite shades in here. I could not find a shade like this in my collection. It's a true chartreuse, and it shifts to like a bright green, true green, and I also see a bunch of orange flecks throughout it. It is such a stunner. And this one is a very smooth, more on par with the shade Gazebo. Daydream is a beautiful, cool tone, pale pink, and it has blue sparkles in it, super dimensional. It's basically a pink blue kind of duochrome, but the blue is just really in there in terms of the flecks. Oasis is such a beautiful shade. It is more on the squishy and emollient side. It's also a little bit flaky in the pan, but it does smooth out quite a bit and it looks just so beautiful. The shift is so evident and it's a really stunning bright green. It has a little bit of a yellowy brownish warm base to it, and then it shifts to a blue to purple. And this one is definitely such an interesting shade because it looks so lime green in the pan, but once you actually put it on, it really surprises you quite a bit. There's Deserted. This is a beautiful, kind of more jeweled type of very smooth multi-chrome. Feels really nice and silky, smooth. I don't think the black base is very evident in this shade. It's almost like an orangey, rusty shade. And then it goes into like a true green to a teal. And then Serenity is also a darker kind of shimmer shade. It does have a little bit of that black base in it, but it's not too evident. And this one is full of holographic sparkles. It is so beautiful, so dimensional, very shifty, grassy green straight on, and it goes to blue, teal, and purple, and maybe just a little bit of magenta too on a very harsh angle when the light is just hitting it right. And then the last shimmer shade is Imagine. It is a stunning, really true green, straight on, and it shifts to teal to this beautiful, beautiful denim blue. And this one also is on the darker side. It does have a little bit of a black base, but nothing really that will really blend out and muddy anything up. It is very, very smooth. So the shade and Deserted feel like the most similar in terms of texture. And then Secrecy. And then Secrecy is also kind of similar, but just ever so slightly once you actually touch it and the way it looks in the pan. Dipping into Enchanted, and I'm just popping that onto the outer corner and the inner lid as well. Just kind of first trying to put it on, then I'm going to use Mist to slowly blend that out on both parts. And then taking that further and dipping into Water Lily. And taking that on the edge of Mist. I'm going to go back in with just a little bit of more of Enchanted and underneath my lower lash line as well, just on this outer corner. And then a little bit back into Mist. And I'm just kind of trying to leave like the center here clear essentially. Just going back in with a little bit more Enchanted. Gonna be wiping off my brush again, a little bit more Water Lily. Blend this out here. Pick up Peony, and I'm just gonna tap that in the center of my lid. And I'm really trying not to blend it. I'm really just trying to focus it like this. And then I'm gonna take a shimmer. I think I'm gonna go in with Daydream, which is what this one looks like right in the center. I'm just tapping it over the pink and a little bit onto the green. And there's kind of like blue sparkles in this shade, so it does really nicely just bridge into the green as well. Just tapping, bringing it up a little bit. It's going to end up there anyway since I have hooded lids. And I'm just gonna go in with Enchanted just to make sure it's nice and blended in here. Here's the first finished look. For the second look, I want to do a very green look. Really want to use that really bright green. And then maybe some of the dark green. So this one's going to be very monochromatic. For the second look, I want to do a more monochromatic green look. So I'm first taking Lock and Key. And I'm going to create an eyeshadow wing with that. Trying to really focus it near my lash line. And I'm just gonna slowly work it out a little bit more. Just sharpening it out. And then picking up a little bit more, just connecting my lower lash line just a little bit. And dipping back in. Adding a little bit more here. And I think that's pretty good. I think I'm actually not gonna put anything here. Yeah. I think I'm gonna maybe do a little bit of water lily just like up in here. But I'm gonna try to keep it above my hood. Just like that. So when I look, you can still see the green. So I really want to layer a shimmer over this. I think I'm gonna do Deserted because it is so beautiful. I'm gonna mist my brush just to help it adhere a little bit better, just so it's less fallout. And I'm just tracing basically over, just covering the wing essentially. And then a little bit underneath here as well. And then I have just a tiny bit of fallout, but really nothing too bad. And then for the shimmer, I'm going to wipe off the same brush. This is like a ColourPop brush. I believe it was from a set, so I don't think it comes separately. And I'm going to take Oasis. Now this shade is pretty chunky, so I'm going to just mist it a little bit, but I do prefer to use these with my finger, but we'll just see. Yeah, I think that definitely helps spread it at least. Misting it for sure helps. But it does pick up a bit chunky. I'm gonna go in with my finger and I'm just gonna really smooth it out with the pressure of my finger. It's almost like an iridescent shade. Here's a second finished look. And a final look. This time I primed with the Pat McGrath eyeshadow primer. I'm gonna be dipping into the brown shades in the top row. First taking Wonder. And I'm just going to be blowing it out essentially from about my outer corner to like almost into my inner crease, but not quite focusing it, just really focusing it out here and kind of elongating this section. Taking Mahogany, I'm just going to put that on the outer corner, bring it down first, and then a little bit underneath my lower lash line. And then I'm going to go back to the other brush, which is the Refer 14. I'm going to take a little bit of Hidden Dock. These are pretty hard to read for sure. Not all of them are the same font size, and they're all super cursive. And cursive, when it's really small, is very hard to read. And then taking a Vintage, and I'm just going to use that to like further blend everything out on the outer corner. And then picked up Gazebo on my finger, and I'm just going to tap that essentially almost all the way across my lid. This shade is so pretty. This is a hollow neutral, but I do feel like the hollows are a little bit subtle. I can definitely see them a little bit, especially like on an angle. I can see the rainbow here. And here's the third finished look. So lip oil, absolutely love. And I feel like this seems like a little bit more like a threatening kind of shade to wear, but it's really just a slight tint. Honestly, it doesn't really look like you have black lip oil on, and I love the sparkles in it. And then I'm really excited about the empty palette because I love having all my brands in their branded empty palettes. So moving on to the palette, we have 10 stunning shimmers, and then the rest are just beautiful, colorful, punchy mattes. I didn't have any issues with the performance of the mattes. I enjoy them very much. I'm very familiar with the Bella Beaute bar formula at this point, and they're really nice. Some of them are a little bit more K-cup-y than others. Some of them are a little bit harder pressed than others, and that's very on par with pretty much all their other eyeshadow palettes that I've tried. And then onto the shimmers, there's definitely a couple of different kind of textures I want to talk about. There are some more squishy emollient shades in here, which definitely, if you've been on my channel, you know I have hooded oily lids, and my lids just eat that formula up. And those shades are Sun, Shower, Serenity, Flora and Oasis. So those I will have to try to press with a tissue and just try to get as much of the binder or whatever's making it like squishy and oily out of it, because I did put these on over my typical eyeshadow primer, and that is the Too Faced Shadow Insurance Primer as well as the Pat McGrath eyeshadow primer. Those two do really well for me. Those are the ones that I will wear to the office when I need to wear my eyeshadow for 12 hours, less or more, depending on the day. And I put these on while I was at home, and unfortunately they completely got eaten up by my lids within like the first 20 minutes, honestly, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse as I wore them for a little bit longer. I had to actually end up wiping them off. I don't mind having to fix my shimmer shadows a little bit throughout the day and just tap it out, but I really don't want to have to do that more than 2 times, and with these I will have to do that probably every 30 minutes, every hour. If I'm in public especially, I don't really want to be walking around with super creasy lids, so that is something to keep in mind. If you have the same issues as me, definitely try out just pressing tissue paper in the shadows that you already have, but that is something to be aware of before purchasing this palette. But then on the other hand, I wore Gazebo, and I wore it all day, and I had no fading and no creasing, and I was like outside, it was lightly drizzling, sweating, I was moving around, and it did not budge on me, on top of the Pat McGrath primer with no tacky primer. So it's really just, it depends. Like there's some slightly more emollient formulas that are fine for me, and then there's some that are just really a little bit too much, and those are those 4 that I mentioned. And then this shade right here is so beautiful. I would say this one is more similar in texture to Gazebo, and the Secrecy, Imagine, and Deserted are super smooth. Oh my gosh, I forgot to mention Gazebo and Secrecy are actually hollows, and I love the fact that this one is a hollow, because there's something extra fun about a neutral shimmer being hollow. A little bit of pop of surprise since you're wearing a neutral eyeshadow. And the other thing I wanted to mention, which I've definitely experienced this before with Bella Beaute by palettes, and that is that sometimes things are just a little bit harder to read on the packaging. And I understand like Secret Garden, so it's a little harder to read. It totally makes sense. But on the inside, the font is super cursive. It looks like it's the same cursive as what's on the cover, and it's just really swoopy, and it's really hard to read, especially because some of them are smaller than others. I feel like Bella Beaute Bar really just gets everyone excited because they always come out with things that are just so cohesive, put a little spin on it. So let me know in the comments below what you think of this palette and which look was your favorite, and also will you be picking this palette up when it launches? And that's everything for this video. If you would like to see more Bella Beaute Bar content, I do have a playlist that you can check out, and thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.